Hi, Algebra 1B students. It's Miss Carol. I've got my coffee here, and I am ready to tackle Unit 2 project, Lesson 9 with you for Algebra 1B today. And in this scenario, we have three individuals. Fabian, Gabe, and Hayden are in a diving competition. The prize for their category is awarded to the person who reaches the highest point in their path. The height in feet of each person's dive can be represented by a quadratic function. Use the functions that represent each person's dive to answer the questions. So when I first went through this, it took me a minute to figure out what was happening here. But to clarify this for you, the first graph of a parabola that we can see here, this is Fabian's dive, okay? And then if we scroll down a little bit, we have a function just written out, an algebraic function here, and that is Gabe's dive, okay? And then last but not least, we have a table of values we can tell is also going to be a parabola, but that is what is representing Hayden's dive. Okay, so the first couple questions are really easy. And the first one is, analyze the graph of the function of Fabian's dive and what is the maximum height in feet. So all we have to do is head up here and see at our vertex, our maximum point on this parabola, we're at a time of 0.3 seconds and a height of 49.6 feet. That is really far up there. So that is, that's Fabian's max height, and all you need to do is type in 49.6. Okay, the next question says, analyze the equation of the function for Gabe's dive. What was his maximum height in feet? Okay, and they give us a really good hint here that we need to find the vertex. So we're going to go up, and if you'll remember from lessons past, in order to find the x value for the vertex, we're going to use the equation x equals negative b over 2a. All right, and that is going to be a negative 8.5 over 2 times negative 16. And this is negative 8.5 over negative 32. And when I enter that into my calculator, I get about 0.27, positive 0.27. Okay, oops, sorry, not 2.5, that's 2.7. Okay, so what that is telling me is that at 0.27 seconds, Gabe is reaching his max height. That doesn't tell me his max height. It's just that at 0.27 seconds, he's there. So in order to actually find that max height, I have to find G at 0.27. So I have to plug in 0.27 for all values of x. So that is negative 16 times 0.27 squared plus 8.5 times 0.27 and plus 48. Okay, so 0.27 squared times 16 negative 1.17. I'm going to add that to 0.27 times 8.5, and I get about 1.13, and then I'm going to add 48 to that total, and I get 49.1. So G at 0.27 equals 49.1. If you'll remember, Fabian was at 49.6, so Gabe is just shy of Fabian. 49.1, oops, 0.1, there we go. All right, so that is the y value when x is 0.27. Okay, next question. Analyze the table of the function for Hayden's dive. All right, this is probably the easiest one because we don't have anything other tthan whole numbers to look at here. But what we want to look for is where it goes to a maximum and then it goes back down. So we can see that we're at 48, we go up to 49, and then back down to 48. All we can see here is that it looks like the maximum was at 0.25 and it was 49 feet. So Hayden has the shortest jump, okay? So he is at 49. Okay, so then, based on this, we can tell that Fabian at 49.6 is going to win this diving competition. And now, this is a really interesting question. Think about the average rate of change for each function over that time interval between 0 seconds and 2 seconds. So when they start jumping and then when they hit the water, or approximately when they hit the water, which person's height is changing at a faster rate over that interval. And so they all start at that 48 feet. Okay, we can tell that from the graph. There's an initial 48. There's an initial 48, and this value at the end of Gabe's equation is also a 48. So we know they all start at 0 and 48 feet, but then who has the fastest rate of change? To me, that says who hits the water first. Okay, so we can tell that Fabian is going to hit the water at 2.1 seconds. We need to figure out when Gabe will hit the water, and we can do that by solving the quadratic equation there. And we can see that Hayden hits the water at 2 seconds. Okay, so we know that Hayden hit the water faster than Fabian. Now we just have to see if he also hit the water faster than Gabe. So let's see where the root of Gabe's equation is, and I'm going to do that by using the quadratic equation here. So minus 8.5 plus or minus the square root 8.5 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times C is 48 minus 4AC, there we go, all over 2 times a negative 16. Okay, so 8.5 squared, 72.25, and then I've got 64 times 48. And I'm going to add that to 72.25 because the two negatives cancel out here. So I have the square root of 3,144.25, which comes out to about 56. So I'll say 56.07. 8.5 plus or minus 56.07 all over negative 32. So what and this is a negative 8.5. What I really need is a negative answer. If I add 56 to, what I need is a positive answer. If I add 56 to this, I'm going to have a negative answer, and it'll give me this negative root. I want the positive root. So I'm going to subtract the 56 from 8.5, because when I do that and I divide by the negative 32, I'll get a positive answer. So let's see. And I divide by 32, I'm going to get 2.01. Okay, so what that's saying is that Hayden is hitting the water at 2 seconds. Okay. Gabe is hitting the water at 2.01 seconds, and Fabian is hitting the water at 2.1 seconds. So the fastest rate of change, since they're all starting at 0 and 48, the fastest rate of change to get all the way back to 0 is that 2 seconds, okay? So we can say that it took Hayden the least amount of time to hit the water. And that makes sense because he went up the least. So he had the least to come back down. So we can go ahead and say Hayden, his height is changing the fastest, his overall height, okay? And that's because he started at 48 and they're all going to 0, but it took him the least amount of time. So let's see, I definitely have time to answer this. This is a little bit confusing. There's more than one way to do this. You can actually find the rate of change between when each person took off at 0 and 48 and where they were exactly at 2 seconds. You can do that, or you can do it the way that we did and find out which person hit the water the fastest. So we know that Hayden had the fastest rate of change for height over interval because he hit the water at 2 seconds and everyone else took longer than 2 seconds. Okay, they covered the same I guess you'd want to say like the same distance from the initial point to the ending point. And this would be 48 feet to 0. But the other two went higher, so it took them longer. Okay. Something along those lines, or if you want to do this a different way, because there is more than one way to do it, and just clarify your answer, that would be totally fine. Thank you for listening, and I will look forward to getting your answers here.